Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something pretty exciting. We're going to uncover the hidden forces that shape, well, our everyday lives, the invisible architecture of the world around us. So let's just dive right in, because what we're looking at today is truly the mechanics of human society. It's a massive question, right? How does human society actually work? I mean, we all live in a society. We're influenced by our families, our communities, the local economy, and political institutions every single day. But, we rarely pause to take a step back and think about what actually keeps all of these gears turning together. What are the rules of the game we're all playing? Well, it turns out society, the economy, and the environment, they aren't just separate little boxes. They constantly overlap and intersect, and they're all bound together by this overarching concept of sustainability. Every single choice made in one area ripples out into the others. It's like a giant puzzle. And to understand this web, we need a specific set of tools. So here's our roadmap for today. First, what is social science? 2, the 4 major lenses. 3, connecting the pieces. 4, the Indian perspective. And 5, why social science matters. Let's start with section 1. What is social science? At its core, social science is the systematic study of human society, our social relationships, and exactly how people organize their lives and interact with institutions. Unlike the natural sciences, which study the physical and natural worlds, like chemistry or biology, social science focuses squarely on human activities. It helps us understand how societies are formed, how they function, and how they change over time. And here's a kind of fun fact for you. The word society actually comes from the Latin word socius, which literally means companionship or association. So fundamentally, we're studying how the idea of living together shapes our behavior, and, why we don't all just live alone in the woods. Moving on to section 2, the 4 major lenses. To really get a grip on something as incredibly complex as human companionship and society, we can't just look at it from one angle. We need a framework. We need 4 distinct lenses. And our very first one is the lens of time, which we call history. Now, history studies past events, societies, and civilizations. And hey, it is not just about memorizing a bunch of random dates. It's about understanding how human societies have developed over time and how those historical events have completely influenced the social, political, and economic changes we're seeing today. History provides the insights into the causes and consequences of the past, so we can finally understand the roots of our present-day institutions. But that naturally brings up a question, doesn't it? Where do these historical societies actually decide to settle down, and why? Well, that brings us to our second lens, the lens of space, known as geography. Geography looks at the absolutely critical relationship between our physical environment, the mountains, the plains, the rivers, and human settlement patterns. It explains why agriculture pops up in a fertile valley while a mining town springs up on a rocky plateau. Geography dictates the physical stage on which the entire human drama plays out. Okay, so once people settle down on that geographic stage and build up a shared history, they inevitably have to figure out how to govern themselves. Enter our third lens, the lens of power, or political science. Political science deals with systems of governance, political institutions, laws, and public policies. This is the lens that helps us unpack democracy, the Constitution, citizenship, and our fundamental rights. It's the study of how governments function, how decisions are made, and ultimately how power is exercised and controlled in a society, so that people can actually live together in harmony. And finally, those governed societies still have to figure out how to survive and hopefully thrive materially. That takes us to our fourth and final lens, the lens of resources. Yep, economics. Economics studies how individuals and societies use limited resources to satisfy our essentially unlimited wants. Because, let's be real, there's always something new we want to build or buy, right? It focuses heavily on the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. It deals with the massive, everyday issues like economic development, growth, employment, income, and unfortunately, poverty. It's the engine that materially sustains the society. All right, section 3, connecting the pieces. So we have history, geography, political science, and economics. But here's the real aha moment for this whole explainer. These 4 disciplines absolutely do not operate in isolated silos. Check this out. Imagine a river providing fertile soil and water, Okay, that's geography. Because of those awesome conditions, an ancient civilization settles there. Boom, that becomes history. As the river acts as a route for trade, the settlement starts producing and distributing goods. That's economics. And to manage this growing trading settlement fairly, rules and institutions are formed. And that is political science. Understanding these interrelationships helps us develop a holistic, integrated view of society rather than just seeing it from a single, narrow perspective. Let's jump into Section 4. The Indian perspective. Now, let's take everything we've just learned and apply it to a real-world case study. India's incredible complexity makes it literally the ultimate testing ground for social science. Consider two massive pillars of Indian society. On one hand, you have unity and diversity, a country characterized by vast differences in physical features, climate, culture, language, and religion. On the other hand, you have everyday citizens actively participating in the electoral process, managing one of the largest democratic elections in the entire world. Studying social science is exactly what helps make sense of how this vast cultural diversity thrives alongside such a massive democratic machinery. When we apply our four lenses to India, the whole picture just snaps right into focus. You see, history reveals the freedom struggle and this incredibly rich cultural heritage. Geography maps out the wildly diverse physical and climatic conditions that shape how different regions actually live. Political science unpacks the Constitution and our fundamental rights. And economics, well, it tackles the very real pressing challenges like poverty, inequality, and the intense need for sustainable development. Together, they give us the whole shebang. Which brings us to our final section, number 5, why social science matters. We've talked about what social science is and how it works, but why does it actually matter to you? Well, the study of social science isn't just about memorizing facts or squinting at old maps. It actually helps inculcate vital social and civic values: tolerance, equity, freedom, respect, and justice. By understanding issues like inequality and social injustice, we become more sensitive to the needs of others. We learn to respect different cultures and ways of life. Basically, we're developing the exact empathy, critical thinking, and civic awareness required to promote social harmony and peaceful coexistence. Because ultimately, through the study of social science, students gain an understanding of democratic values and the importance of active participation in society. The goal here isn't just knowledge, it's action. It's about taking you from being a passive observer of the world to an active, responsible, and informed citizen who can make sound decisions about the future. And that leaves us with a final thought to ponder. Now that you understand the hidden mechanics behind society, the gears of history, geography, power, and resources, how are you going to actively participate in shaping it? Take these lenses, apply them to your own neighborhood, your school, or your community, and start making a difference. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to explore our next topic with you.